Hey, I'm Daniel and welcome to a complete tutorial on how to play Dragons of Etchinstone, a solo card game by Joe Klipfel published by Cheap Theory Games. Now this game has two expansions, North Whale and Siege, as well as a couple of different variants to play the game, but in this video I'm going to cover only the base rules which are still essential for any game mode you choose to play. I might do a separate video specifically for North Whale later on, so keep an eye on these. And as usual, for full transparency, this video is not sponsored and I purchased the game myself. If I make any small mistakes, I'll make sure to post rule corrections in the pinned comment, so keep an eye on that one as well. And now let's get started. So Dragons of Etchinstone is a card game and it has three types of cards. Mages, which are these colorful cards with the old gentleman in the middle, regions with some weird creatures and locations, and dragons, which are the final bosses of the game. To set up the game, first separate these cards into three piles just like I have over here. Mage cards have four orientations indicated by the big number in the top left corner. We're going to break down everything on these cards soon, but for now just make sure they're facing up with a number 2 and give them a good shuffle. This is your deck. Then draw 4 cards from the deck and keep them aside for now. This is your hand. Then grab the dragon cards. They are double-sided, so there are 4 dragons in total, and during the play you fight only against a single dragon. So choose which one you want to face. In this case, I'll choose Rodwing and place it behind your deck. You can return the other dragon card back in the box because you won't need it this play. Next, grab the 2 region cards. They are double-sided with region 1 and 2 on one card and 3 and 4 on another. Place region 3 behind the dragon and region 1 on top of the deck. And we are now ready to begin. The game plays in 5 phases: challenge, action, penalty, upgrade, and cleanup. This cycle continues until you face the final battle, which works slightly different, but of course we'll cover it too. So let's start with the challenge phase. The top card of your deck, which is directly underneath your region card, is called the key card, and it shows what encounter you will face. To reveal that information, simply slide down the region card a little bit until this icon on the key card becomes visible. Now, on my personal side note, the whole idea of stacking the cards like that is because the game was designed to be playable even in the palm of your hand, so you can play and enjoy the game even while in the park, on a train, or just chilling on the sofa. But technically speaking, you don't have to stack the cards like that. If you play Dragons of Etchinstone at the table just like I'm doing here, you can just place the region card aside like that. And this is probably what I'm going to do for the rest of the video too, as otherwise the region card sometimes rotates or slides off a little bit from the deck. Anyway, back to the challenge phase. Let's take a look at this line on the key card. If you see the skull, it means you will face an enemy, and if you see the navigation sign, it means you face a journey. The number next to that icon tells you which specific encounter of that type you face. Encounter numbers go from left to right and top to bottom, so it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the enemies, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the journeys. In this example, because our key card shows a skull with a number 3, it means we'll face this strange looking bird as our enemy. Sometimes next to the encounter icon on the key card, you will see other icons. They are called Hardships. Hardships are basically extra modifiers that make encounters more challenging, and we'll break down each of these modifiers a little later. If you don't like the encounter you face, or perhaps if the hardship is too hard to deal with given your current hand, you may choose to divert. To do this, discard the key card, which is again the top card of the deck, as well as any of the 4 cards from your hand, and then start the challenge phase again. The downside is that you would end up with fewer cards in your hand for the next encounter, and also that you cycle through your deck quicker, which means fewer opportunities to upgrade your mage cards. Keep in mind that you may only divert twice before you must face an encounter, though the whole divert step is completely optional. And by the way, whenever the game instructs you to discard a card, place it behind the inactive region card, which is at the bottom of this whole stack. Or again, as my personal note for those playing at the table, you can just place discarded cards next to your deck. Now let's move on to the action phase, and this is where the most of the gameplay happens. During this phase, you need to assign roles to the cards in your hand, and these roles are as follows: element, spell, and boost. And regardless of which specific card you assign to which role, the crucial part is the order of those roles themselves should always stay like that, and this order is especially relevant for the expansions. So it's good to get in the habit of organizing cards in your hand in this specific way to avoid any confusion later. These 3 cards, element, spell, and boost, form an action set, and let's see what they do. Spell, which is the card in the middle, determines your main action, which is shown by these two numbers in the middle section of the card. The first number is the basic action, and below that is the enhanced action and its corresponding element. And depending on the specific mage card, you may find two types of symbols, either an attack that is used against an enemy or a move which you can use during a journey. Some cards even show both the symbols in a single action, which means you can choose which one to use. The next card in the action set is the element, which is placed to the left of the spell card, and it determines two things: your initiative and element. Initiative is this number in the upper part of the card, and it's used mostly when facing an enemy. Element is shown by the card's color, and you can also tell by this little icon at the top next to the card's name. And there are 4 elements in the game: water, fire, lighting and shadow, with their respective icons and colors: blue, red, yellow and purple. If the element on this card matches the element of the enhanced action on the spell card, then you can perform an enhanced action instead of the basic one, which is usually much stronger, so it's generally a good idea to try to match that element. And the final card of the action set is Boost, which is the card on the right, and it allows you to add a bonus value to either your action or your initiative. And of course, you can decide to use any card as any role. For example, you may declare this card as your element or that card as your boost. It is completely up to you. And figuring out the optimal place between those cards is honestly the crunchiest part of the game. Now, a couple of additional notes. A fourth card that is not part of your action set is your reserve card. When you have at least 3 cards in your hand, you must assign all 3 roles. But if you have fewer than 3 cards, for example, if you chose to divert during the challenge phase, then one of those cards must be assigned as a spell. Now let's resolve our cards against the enemy, because as a reminder, in this encounter we face enemy 3, which is this strange looking bird. Each enemy has their own stats, which go like this from top to bottom: hit points, initiative, damage and armor. And so, in order to succeed in this encounter, ideally you want to beat their initiative and match or exceed their HP with your damage. And I say ideally because that would be the most beneficial outcome for you, but that is not always possible, and of course we'll have both cases covered soon. But first, let's have a look at what we've got with our action set. I assigned River Swiftness as the element card, which means our initiative is 6 and our element is lightning. I assigned Sword of Light as the spell card, so we can normally deal 3 basic damage, but because the element of the enhanced action on this card matches the element of our element card, as they are both lightning, we can deal 6 damage instead. And Determined Marsh is our boost card, and we can add +3 value to either the initiative or the action, making either of them 9 instead of 6. And Frostfire Wall is our reserve card, and it is not used this encounter. Now let's compare these numbers with the enemy we're facing. If we use our boost for the attack, then we can deal 9 damage, which matches the enemy's HP. And because our initiative is 6, we match the enemy's initiative too. The enemy has 2 armor, but it is only used when dealing damage over the matching element. In other words, if the element on our enhanced action were water, then we would need to subtract that armor value from our damage. But because our enhanced action element is lighting, we can just ignore its armor completely and deal the full damage. Now, as I said earlier, beating both enemies' initiative and HP is the best possible outcome, but you'll come across different cases, so let's break them down. First, if the enemy's initiative is higher than yours, the enemy will attack you even if you manage to fully defeat its HP, and you will suffer the enemy's damage during the penalty phase. This particular type of damage is called early damage. If you beat the enemy with your attack value matching or exceeding the enemy's HP, that's a complete victory, and you can collect the XP reward as indicated at the bottom right corner of the enemy, which is 5 in this case. Next, if your attack equals or exceeds half of the enemy's HP rounded up, then it's a narrow victory. You gain the XP reward, but the enemy also strikes you back, and you will suffer the enemy's damage during the penalty phase. This particular type of damage is called combat damage. Keep in mind that early damage and combat damage can stack, so if you aren't fast enough and fail to defeat the enemy, then you will suffer both damages added up as a single instant of damage during the penalty phase. And finally, if your attack is less than half of the enemy's HP rounded up, then you just get hit back by the enemy and you don't collect any reward. Some enemies also have additional abilities that you need to take into account, but we'll go over them a little bit later. Now, we've just covered the action phase phase against the enemy encounter, but before moving on to the next phase, let's also take a look at how the action phase looks during a journey encounter. Let's say for this example, our key card is this one instead, and as indicated by its icon, we're facing a journey encounter number 2. Journey encounters work in a similar way to enemies, but instead of beating their initiative and HP, you need to compare your values against their move points, or MP for short, which is 8 in this case as indicated by the number within the mountain icon. So let's have a look at our action set again. It works exactly the same pretty much, but this time we're trying to move instead of dealing damage. And it looks like we can easily solve this puzzle by assigning River Swiftness as our spell card and Sword of Light as our element card. So let's calculate our move. Because our element matches the one on our enhanced action, we can use that instead of the basic one, so 6 move. Then let's add boost to our move action, so that is 9, which is already more than needed for our target value of 8 for this journey. But also because we're making an enhanced move and it has the same element as on this journey, we also add the boost from our reserve card, which is another +2, making a total move value of 11. And similarly to the enemy encounter, let's now compare these values to determine the outcome. If your move equals or exceeds the encounter's move points, then it's complete victory, which means you just collect the reward that is shown at the bottom of the journey, which is 3 XP in this case. If your move equals or exceeds half of the enemy's move points, it's a narrow victory, which means you gain the XP reward but also suffer the consequences during the penalty phase, in the form of losing time equal to journey's time penalty, which is 1 in this case. And if your move is less than half of the encounter's move points, then it's a loss and you just suffer the time penalty without collecting the reward. And just like the enemies, some journey encounters have special abilities called journey perils, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. With both types of encounter covered, let's move on to the next phase, penalty. In this phase, we resolve time penalties and damage if we fail to get a complete victory during the previous phase. Importantly, if you suffered multiple time penalties, early damage, combat damage, or any other instances of damage, add them all up and apply them as a single instance all at once. To resolve a time penalty, simply discard a number of cards from the top of the deck equal to the time penalty you must suffer. And as a reminder, the fewer cards you have in your deck, the fewer opportunities you have to upgrade your card, which we're going to talk about soon as well. And if you don't have any more cards to discard from your deck, then suffer damage equal to the number of cards you failed to discard. And as usual, you need to add this damage to all other damage types for a single total. To resolve damage against you, you must soak that damage with the cards in your hand, which results in downgrading them. For example, you need to suffer 4 damage. Now let's have a look at the bottom part of our mage cards, where you'll see their armor value. Let's say I decide to soak the damage with my Sword of Light, which has 2 armor, so I'm preventing 2 damage, and then I must downgrade this card by rotating it to the level 1 facing up instead of 2. We've prevented 2 damage, but we still have 2 more to go, which means I need to block the damage with another mage card. And let's say I decide to soak the rest with River Swiftness, resulting in being downgraded too. Now, a couple of important notes. During the encounter, you can only downgrade a single card once. If the element of your armor matches the element of the enemy's attack, for example here on Frostfire Wall, the armor's element is water, which is the same as on the bird's attack, then this armor soaks double its printed value. If your mage card is already at level 1 and you use it to block the damage, then this card gets trashed, which means completely removed from play. If a card can soak more damage than needed, for example, if you suffer just 1 damage but the card has armor 2, it still gets downgraded. And finally, if you cannot soak all the damage you must suffer with the cards in your hand, meaning you've already downgraded all the cards you could but still have damage left, then you are knocked out. In that case, downgrade any card not already downgraded this encounter and discard 4 cards from the top of the deck, then continue play. Now let's move on to the next and arguably a bit more pleasant phase, the upgrade phase. If you gained any XP during the encounter, you can spend it now to upgrade your mage cards, increasing their level. To upgrade a card, spend experience equal to the printed upgrade cost at the bottom left corner of the card. For example, that would be 3 experience for Frostfire Wall. And unlike with downgrading, you can upgrade a card multiple times during this phase, as long as you have enough experience. However, you cannot upgrade any card that was downgraded during the penalty phase. And also keep in mind that experience cannot be saved between encounters and any unspent amount is lost at the end of this phase. And finally, to wrap up the round or the encounter, we have the cleanup phase. First, discard your action set, which means the cards you assigned as the element, spell and boost. And since the reserve card is not part of the action set, it is not discarded, so you keep it. And secondly, draw the deck until you have 4 mage cards in your hand. After this, you start with the challenge phase again, repeating the cycle until you reach the end of region. And what is end of region? Well, during the cleanup phase, if there are fewer than 5 mage cards left, 4 for your hand and 1 key card, then you've reached the end of region. If the region you just completed is region 4, then you've reached the final boss, but otherwise do the following. First, reshuffle all of the mage cards. This includes any leftover mage cards in your hand, in the deck and in the discard, though it does not include any trashed cards which are completely removed from the game. Then draw 4 cards to your hand, just like you did during the initial setup, then change the region to the next one, so you go in order from 1, 2, 3 and all the way to 4, and then beginning with the challenge phase again, this time in a new higher level region. And after completing the last region 4, you're going to face the final boss, the dragon. Once you reach the dragon, first reshuffle the mage cards just like you did during the end of region, then place the dragon on top instead of the region card, which you won't need anymore this game, and then get ready. And unlike all other encounters that can be either a journey or an enemy, the final battle encounter consists of both of these types, facing the final journey first and then the final enemy. For the final journey, first draw cards to your hand, but this time 7 cards. If you don't like the cards in your hand, you can optionally regroup. To regroup, discard 1 card, shuffle the remaining 6 cards and then put them at the back of the deck. Then draw new 7 cards to your hand, and keep in mind you can only regroup once. Then, since this is a journey, take a look at the dragon's move points, which are located on the left side. But unlike in the usual journey encounter that have a single move point value you need to match, a dragon cards has 3 different tiers of value, which go from top to bottom as tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. So these are the numbers you need to beat with move, and the higher the value you can get, the less time penalty you will suffer. Now let's assign roles. It works pretty much the same as we already covered, but since this time we have 7 cards, we can make 2 separate action sets with 3 cards each and with 1 extra card as a reserve. And finally, when determine the outcome, add the move values from the 2 action sets together for a collective total move. If you use an enhanced action in either action set and it matches the element of the dragon's move point, you can add the boost from your reserve just like when you journey in the regions. But keep in mind you can do this only once for the final journey, even if both action sets have matching elements. And again, depending on how your total move value compares to the dragon's, you get the following outcomes. If your total move is less than MP of the first tier, which is 20 in this case, you instantly lose and it's a game over. If your total move equals or exceeds the first MP tier, but not the second tier, which in this case either 20, 21 or 22, you suffer the first tier's time penalty, which is 3 in this case. If your total move equals or exceeds the second MP tier but not the third tier, which here means in the range between 23 and 27 inclusive, you suffer the second tier's time penalty, which is 2. And finally, if your move equals or exceeds the third MP tier, which is 28 or higher, then you suffer the third tier's time penalty. So as you can see, unlike the normal journey encounter, even if you manage to exceed the highest MP value, you still suffer the time penalty, though not as severe as with the first tier. And if you happen to survive this final journey, then rest by discarding all 7 cards from your hand, and yes, this includes the reserve. And now it's time for the final battle. First, draw cards to your hand, but this time draw all remaining mage cards from the deck into your hand. Then, since it's an enemy, look at the right side of the dragon card to scout its health and damage values, and they are broken down into 3 tiers similar to move: tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. Next, use your cards to create 2 distinct action sets just like you did in the final journey, but this time generating attack. And remember, if you have fewer cards than 3 in an action set, one of the cards must be a spell. And just like in the normal encounter, you can use your boost to increase either the attack or initiative of the action set, and once you have decided how to assign each set's boost, add the 2 attack values of your action sets together to generate a total attack, and do the same for the initiative. Also, just like in a normal enemy encounter, if the dragon's initiative is higher than yours, you suffer the dragon's early damage, and you can find that value at the top of the card under its name rather than on the side. So it's 9 for this dragon. And as a reminder, you don't resolve this damage immediately. First, see what other damage types you will suffer and then combine it all together. Next, check the dragon's armor. Unlike all other enemies, some dragons have armor of several elements. This specific dragon, Rodwing, has only fire armor, but if we look at the other dragon, for example Wurhast, you can see it has armor against 2 different elements. Though keep in mind that you subtract armor against a specific element only once. So for example, if we flick back to Rodwing and let's say both of our action sets deal fire damage, we would subtract this number 4 only once from the collective total damage rather than from each action set individually. And after subtracting any armor from your total attack, compare the results to the dragon's HP similar to how it's done with the final journey. The resulting tier will determine how much damage the dragon will deal back to you. And suffering and soaking damage with your mage cards work exactly exactly the same way as we covered in the penalty phase. And so if the dragon's total damage knocks you out, which means you cannot soak all the damage, then you lose the game. But if you manage to soak all the damage from the dragon's counterattack and still survive, then you win the game. That covers pretty much everything, and I will show you a little bit of a gameplay demo to tie everything together, but before that, let's go over a couple of additional mechanics. Hardships are extra modifiers that make encounters a bit more challenging, and here is what they do. Ambush. Double the early damage you suffer this encounter. And remember, early damage occurs if the enemy's initiative is higher than yours, and also remember that you add up this damage with any other damage and resolve it all together during the penalty phase. Next hardship is Hazard. Suffer one-time penalty if you suffer early damage, and a one-time penalty if you suffer combat damage this encounter. And as a reminder, time penalty means discarding that many cards from your deck. The next hardship is Storm. If you suffer any time penalties this encounter, suffer an equal amount of damage. And the last hardship, Night Travel. Reduce your boost by your initiative to a minimum of 0. This one is probably easier to explain visually, so let's get back to our action set. Sword of Light is our element card and therefore also our initiative, which is 6 here. And so if we have an encounter with the Night Travel hardship, we would reduce our boost, which is 3 over here, by the initiative value. And so in this case, our boost would be reduced to a minimum and it would be a complete 0. Next, let's cover enemy abilities, which you can find on some enemies in higher level regions. First, Freeze. If this enemy deals early damage to you, you must discard your reserve card during the cleanup phase. Remember that reserve is the only one of the 4 cards that isn't discarded, so if you fail to outspeed the enemy, you will need to discard it in addition to suffering early damage. Next enemy ability is Ranged. This enemy deals early damage in the penalty phase, even if you beat its initiative in the action phase. However, you can ignore this ability by discarding your reserve during the cleanup phase, and you need to decide whether to do this during the action phase but actually discard it during cleanup. Next is Slow. You may compare your move instead of attack against these enemies. So basically, when you're facing a slow enemy, you can treat your boots as if it's your damage, which is good because it gives you more flexibility. And the final enemy ability is Poison. When you suffer damage, you must apply 1 additional damage to the next hand you draw in this region immediately after drawing it. If you suffered both early damage and combat damage, apply 2 additional damage instead. So effectively, after you discard and draw new cards during your cleanup phase, you need to immediately downgrade a card right away to soak that 1 or 2 damage, which is really nasty. Next, let's quickly go over Journey Perils. Luckily, there are only 2 of them. First is Treacherous. If you fail to attain complete victory, after suffering the journey's time penalty, suffer 1 damage as well. And as a reminder, complete victory is only when your move points equal or exceeds the journey's move point value. And the second peril is Steep. Increase the journey's move point by the boost of your reserve card. To give an example, let's say we're facing the first journey of Region 3, which has the base move point value of 14, but because it has this Steep peril, we must increase that number by the boost value of our reserve card, which would be +2 in this case, so 16 move in total. Now, there is one useful mechanic that I've been entirely skipping on purpose to make things more digestible, but I think now it's time to talk about it. Sometimes you might have a situation when you really need a specific element to play an enhanced action instead of the basic one. Like here on this card, we could do move 7 if we have a shadow element, but we don't have another purple card in hand. In that case, if you wish, you can fuse 2 cards of the same element to freely choose element to replace it. So here we have 2 cards of the same element, both River Swiftness and Adapt are lighting cards, so we can fuse them. And to do that, fully slide 1 card behind the other one like that. And then you just declare this newly fused card as any element of your choice. In this case, since we wanted to play an enhanced move action, we can now treat this fused card as Shadow if we want to. And of course, we can assign this Frostfire Wall as our boost now. Very importantly, the 2 fused cards get separated after the action phase. That means you can still independently upgrade them or downgrade them when soaking damage. And also keep in mind that in the cleanup phase, you must discard both of the fused cards. So fusing cards gives you flexibility, but it requires you to discard a card that you could potentially keep as your reserve otherwise. So it's a powerful tool, but it comes at a cost. Now, I know this has been quite a long video already and the game might seem a bit complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. And so to recap and tie everything together, let me play 2 full encounters, one with an enemy and another with a journey, to hopefully make everything click a bit more. Okay, so we are in region 1, these are my 4 cards in hand, all level 2, so we're good to start. First, I scout ahead to see what we're facing. The key card, which is the top card of the deck, shows the skull icon with the number 1, meaning we're facing against the first enemy this red panda. There aren't any additional modifiers or hardships, and I don't want to divert, so we go straight to the action phase. This enemy has 7 HP and 8 initiative, so let's see if there is any way we can beat both. Our highest initiative is 6, which is actually pretty decent value, but still not quite enough, so we would need to boost it if we want to avoid early damage. For the damage, our highest value we can possibly get with enhanced action is 5, which is again not quite enough on its own, meaning we'd need to boost either damage or initiative, and it looks like we will still suffer damage one way or another. Okay, so I'm going to assign Adapt as the spell card, use Determined March as the element, and Frostfire Wall as the boost to increase the damage up to 7. So let's resolve our action set. The enemy's initiative is higher than ours, so we will suffer early damage in the next phase. However, our attack of 7 is equal to the enemy's HP, so it's a complete victory and we gain 4 experience. But first, before we can spend them, we need to suffer 1 damage, and I think I'm gonna choose Frostfire Wall to soak that damage. And even though the armor value is higher than the damage, we still must downgrade this card, so I'm rotating this card with the number 1 face up. Now it's upgrade time, and with 4 experience to spend, I think I'll upgrade my River Swiftness, since it costs exactly 4, and this is the card I'm going to keep in hand for the next encounter since it's the reserve card. To upgrade it, I'm simply going to flip it to the other side with the level 3 face up. Finally, during the cleanup phase, I'm going to discard the 3 cards I used for my action set and then draw more cards until I have 4 again. And that is the end of the round. But let's have the last example by playing a journey, because looking at the key card, we're facing Journey 3. This time there is a hardship and it is called Night Travel, which means we need to subtract initiative from the boost. So the target move point we want to beat is 11 and it has the fire element. We do have a fire move action on our burning bridges, but the value is rather low and it looks like there is no way we can match the number 11 because of the hardship. However, we do have a move value of 9 on our recently upgraded River Swiftness, and even though its element doesn't match the journey element, which means we won't be able to add boost from our reserve card, I think that still should do it. So let's assign River Swiftness as the spell card, then we need to power it up with the water card so we are able to play the enhanced action, and between the two I think I'll choose Distraction as the element card. So now we have move 9 plus 2 additional move from the boost, which would be exactly enough, but because of Night Travel we need to reduce our boost by the initiative. Luckily for us though, our initiative is terribly low, so it's actually not too bad if we swap Brute Force with Burning Bridges. So now we have a 9 plus 3 minus initiative, and that is still 11, which means another complete victory. Because we fully matched the move point value, we gain 4 experience and don't get any time penalty. But just as a reminder, if we weren't able to get 11 move, then we would need to suffer 2 time penalty, which means discarding 2 cards from the deck. And so going straight to the upgrade phase, we have 4 experience to spend, which I'll use to upgrade Burning Bridges to level 3. Then I'm discarding all the rest, drawing 3 new cards again, and then the cycle continues. And well, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope this tutorial helped you to get the basics of Dragons of Etchinstone so you could have more time playing and enjoying the game. And just as a quick heads up, I'll be filming some Dragons of Etchinstone playthroughs on my channel, so keep an eye on these. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I would really appreciate this a lot. And well, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.